Hello guys, welcome to the next lesson. Today we're going to learn about chord inversions. Now, what is a chord inversion? Let me demonstrate what a chord inversion is. In the previous lesson, we learned how to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star with the primary chords. Let me just do a recap of that. So we have right. Okay, now I'm going to play the same song with the same chords using what we call chord inversions. So let's see how it looks like. So now I'm still using the same primary chords, but inversions are helping me to play the chords easier. Now think about chord inversions this way. When we say something is inverted, think of it this way. It's inverted. Now here is my hand. If I invert it, I'm literally sort of turning it the other way around. If I invert my hand, you see my palm. Right, so let's see how this applies to chords. Now for all the chords that we've used to play the song, we play them in what we call the root position. The root position is the default position of the chord. So if I say we're playing the C major chord, now that is C major chord. Now you already know the formula. So that's 1, 3, 5. Now, so that's the root position. Root position meaning it always starts with a 1. So that's 1, 3, and the 5. Okay. Likewise, the F major chord and the G major chord we played. Okay. Now let's come back to the C major chord. Now this is how we invert a chord. Remember we're playing 1, 3, 5. To invert this chord, we need to take out the lowest note, which is the 1. In this case, that is the C. And we need to make it the highest note. So we need to look for C in the next octave. So remember, we're getting rid of the C and looking for the nearest C above. And that will be which C? That will be this C. Because you obviously cannot reach the next C. So now our chord becomes, instead of C, E, G, our chord now becomes E, G, C. Now this is what we call a first inversion. The first inversion. Now why do we call it a first inversion? Because the chord is made up of 3 notes. 1, 2, 3. And so far we've only inverted it once. So this is the first inversion. So if I tell you to play me C major chord in the first inversion, this is what you play. If I tell you to play C major chord in the root position, this is what you would play. Alright, now let's play the second inversion of C major chord. Using the same principle, what would we do? We would have to drop the lowest note, which is what? E, and go and play it a higher octave. Right. So this will be C major chord, second inversion. Remember, the root stays the same. So now we have, remember, we have the same chord with two inversions. So we have the root position, we have the first inversion, and we have the second inversion. Now let's see what happens if we try to invert the chord one more time. And what do we do to invert the chord? We drop the lowest note, this time the G, and we pick it up a higher octave. Now that's G up here. Now this chord looks very familiar. What do you think is happening? It looks like we are back to the root chord. Right? We are playing the root chord, but in another octave. Hence, for a 3-note chord, you can only have 2 inversions. So that's the first inversion and the second inversion. A third inversion will take you to the root position. Now, if you had a 4-note chord, like this, it means you would have 3 inversions. So remember that the number of inversions will be one number short of the number of notes in the chord, which means that if you have 3 notes in the chord, you will have 2 inversions. If you have 4 notes in the chord, you would have 3 inversions. If you have 5 notes in the chord, you would have 4 inversions. And likewise. Okay, so that's it for inversions. So let's go back to Twinkle Twinkle Little Star played with inversions. So now using the root chords. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Right. Now let's use chord inversions. Now you realize the difficulty of playing in the root position. The difficulty of playing in the root position makes you uncomfortable because your hand has to move several steps to play, just to play the right chords. Because from here, you'd have to play this, and you'd have to come all the way down here to play that, and come back to play this. But with chord inversions, you could actually stay within a certain octave playing the same chords. So now there's something else chord inversions help us to do. They help us to maintain the melody of a song even though we are playing the chord. So if you realize what I'm doing, I'm maintaining the melody. I'm maintaining the melody of the song even though I'm playing the chords. Now remember what the melody was. The melody is . Now look at what happens when I'm playing with the inversions. I still try to maintain the melody, okay? So that's the beauty of learning your inversions. So the assignment for this week is to learn the inversions of all the chords. Well, for now, I would say your primary chords. So learn the inversions, learn all the inversions for your C major chord, for F major chord, and for the G major chord. Now this applies to any chord that you learn, any chord at all. So if you learn any new chord, you'd have to learn the inversions as well. And remember the rules. You drop the lowest note and play it an octave up, and you keep dropping till you invert back to the root. Now remember, for any given chord, the number of inversions is one number short of the number of notes in the chord. So for a 3-note chord, you would have 2 inversions. For a 4-note chord, you would have 3 inversions. All right. Stay tuned for the next lesson.